Andy and Paul, you're the original members of 360. What do you remember about your first day?
Well, I remember that Paul arrived approximately 10 minutes before I did on day one, back on 1st of February 2010, and he hasn't let me forget that fact ever since.
I think I remember us doing nothing for the first day. None of the IT worked, so I think all we did was meet in Quality Street.
Our photocopier provider brought a big tin of Quality Street, didn't they? And yeah, that was quite frustrating on day one, nothing working. I think we only had one client, so it wasn't the end of the world, the fact that we couldn't actually do any productive work that day. I think we probably had a few bacon butties and unhealthy snacks from the burger van that used to park outside the serviced offices that we started in. But it was all downhill from then, wasn't it? I think the IT worked for a couple of hours on day two, so we did get a little bit of work done, and then probably day three onwards, it was plain sailing. I think 10 years ago we took the plunge and went straight into cloud technology, didn't we, which was still perhaps a little bit experimental then, and some of the software we were using, some of the specialist software perhaps wasn't adapted for cloud technology back then, but it was all part of the learning curve, I think.
It's been a long 10 years. Definitely grown from one client to
More than one.
more than one client.
I think that it's gone really, really quickly, but it does seem like a very long time ago when we were opening the door and just praying that some more clients would come along before you got the first project finished, and thankfully they did fairly quickly.
And where did the name 360 come from?
So most
Originally we were called Radiance.
initially we were called Radiance Accountants. We had to form the company sort of well in advance so we could get all the licenses set up, bank accounts, etc. And I don't know where the name Radiance came from, but
Clients came up with it.
did they?
Yeah.
I quite liked it. I thought it was quite fresh and unusual, but when we did a bit of market research, we were getting feedback like it sounds like a hairspray, or it sounds like a beauty product, and obviously that's not the image we're trying to portray. Most firms of accountants are called after the sort of founding partner or the founding sort of people in the business, but as my surname's Steele, we didn't think that Steele Accountants or Steele and Co was appropriate, did we? So we engaged a marketing company to come up with some suggestions. They came up with some wild and wacky ones, like I think one of them was ovum or ovium, which is Latin for egg, which was a really clever, sort of protection, nurturing businesses, etc. Very clever, but I just wasn't sure whether Hull was ready for a firm of accountants going by that name back then. One of the alternatives they came up with was 360. I think the fact that we're accountants, we like numbers, sort of made that work, and also the fact that we sort of take a 360 approach to the way we look after our clients. All business owners have certain skills, certain experiences, etc., but there's always gaps. So we try and fill those gaps, whether it be giving them financial support, advice on sort of simple HR matters, passing on our marketing experience, etc., and sort of guiding them in the right direction.
I think our original strapline was all around view.
Yeah, it was 360 chartered accountants with an all-round view, wasn't it? Which worked really well for a period, as did the logo, but over a period of time we realised that perhaps the logo wasn't working as well as it could, because we did have some people calling us 36 accountants, didn't they? And a lot of people were questioning what the sort of the squiggle represented, and it did actually represent. It was like in the olden days, accounts were done on sort of scrolls, weren't they? Apparently, I'm not 100% convinced, but apparently they were. So that was where the squiggle came from. But over time, we've developed the logo into the one that it is now, which just makes it a little bit more obvious that we're called 360 and not 36. Although there are nearly 36 of us now, so maybe we should change the name to 36 Chartered Accountants.
So Andy, this was your first official headshot of 360. Do you remember this day?
I don't actually. I think the first few days were a bit of a haze. Obviously the photo was taken, the camera doesn't lie. No, my hair was very long. Early February, I'd been finishing all the tax returns at the previous firm that I worked for in the run up to 31st of January, so I was obviously too busy to get a haircut. I've aged a bit since then, put on a couple of pounds. I like to see I was a little bit grey back then, whereas now I'm slightly more grey. Through having to work with people like Paul, I suppose. Joke.
So this was your first official headshot, Paul, at 360. Do you remember your first day?
I remember meeting Andy Steele for the first time. That was an experience and a half.
We've met him a few times since then, haven't we?
We've done a few photos. Unlike Andy, I don't think I have aged. I'm like Benjamin Button.
I don't think you've changed at all. I mean, you've changed your shirt.
I've changed the shirt.
But now you've got the same hairstyle.
Yeah, nothing's changed there.
So yeah, you don't really need to update your team photo, do you? You
Just keep using the same one.
Yeah, keep moisturising.
Yeah.
So Sophie was your first apprentice. You must be very proud of Sophie and other apprentices, the way that they've progressed.
Yeah, so Sophie joined us autumn 2011. So back then there was 5 of us, is that right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Sophie joined us from doing her A-levels at Hunsley. Our original offices were very close to South Hunsley, so we sort of built up a really good relationship with them back then, and that relationship continues today. Sophie studied her AAT qualification, then went on to do ACCA, and then after that she actually went on and did a chartered qualification as well. So she's one of the most highly qualified accountants in Yorkshire, I guess. As well as doing her accountancy qualifications, she's gained a lot of knowledge on the charities sector. So Sophie heads up our charity department today. She's doing a lot of really high-level stuff that most of her peers, that they're not at that level yet, and I think that's a reflection of the fact that we encourage people to sort of better themselves. We show them how to sort of attend networking events, etc. Yeah, and Sophie was just the first in a long line of really good, technically competent, confident apprentices, most of whom we've been able to retain in the business because of the fact we've been growing and we've needed experienced, qualified people to work in the business. As we continue to grow, they'll be able to specialise in particular areas like Sophie has with charities, like Paul has with his zero knowledge, etc. So it's becoming a really attractive place to sort of train and learn and progress your accountancy career. And we're very proud of Sophie, very proud of all of our apprentices, and very proud of the apprenticeship programme.
I think from my side of it, I think the apprentices have learned a lot over the years from when they've been in. And I think that kind of stems from the good team ethic. We were a small firm, we were a start-up, we needed everyone to be involved, and we got that. We managed to, our apprentices, the first 3-4 apprentices who got involved in the business from day one, and have helped us to move from Melton into the city centre. And I think that's because of the fact that they've had to work hard, and I'd like to take some credit for Sophie. She was our first apprentice, and I think she's doing very well.
Yeah, I think everybody gets involved with the sort of nurturing and mentoring of the apprentices, and the fact that our earlier apprentices and some of our more recent ones have started in the admin department, so they've sort of seen the business.
I think they've been able to learn every part of the business, and they've been able to pass those skills and that knowledge on to the newer members of the team.
Yeah.
So I think from early beginnings, from doing our banking and doing the butty runs, which are important, not just doing the accounts,
particularly the butty runs,
and servicing the clients, but also maintaining the high levels of admin that are involved in running the business.
Yeah, completely agree.
So Paul, tell us about this photo.
I honestly can't remember it being taken. I don't know why I'm so grumpy.
Or why you're wearing a dark blue shirt.
Dark blue shirt, no. I think I was the first member of the team to be Xero certified. It was a piece of software that was, I think we started that late 2010. I think originally we were using Sage for ourselves. We've been to
went to an accountancy conference, didn't we, in Birmingham, and
yeah.
Stumbled upon the Xero stand,
yeah,
and liked what we saw, so we went away and explored it a bit further, didn't we?
I think we were trialling it just for ourselves first to see if it worked for us, running alongside Current, and we were going to trial it for at least 3 months. I think within 3 or 4 weeks we decided it was for us. It suited our model of being in the cloud. We didn't need to transfer Sage backups to people. Started recommending it to our clients, especially the new startup businesses that would come to us. It meant that we could service those clients a lot quicker with queries on their bookkeeping, their accounts. It meant that we could get management accounts done a lot quicker. We could provide them with updated information, which helps us, also helps the client.
I think we were the first sort of independent firm in, well, definitely in East Yorkshire, possibly Yorkshire, to become, Xero certified advisors. So we've been using it nearly 10 years now. We've got more clients using it than any other firm locally. So we've got a lot of experience of, applying Xero to different types and sizes of business. We've got around 10, 15 certified advisors, haven't we? So there's plenty of big people in the business that can support Xero. But we're also, very experienced with other popular packages like Sage, QuickBooks, Free Agent, etc. So yeah.
So Sean joined 360 August 2014. What's the story behind Sean joining the team?
Yeah, I used to work with Sean, as did Paul, for a short period of time in an old life, and the firm that Sean worked for was sort of changing direction, so he was looking for a new home for his portfolio clients. I knew how good Sean was from a sort of technical point of view, a lot of experience with sort of corporate finance, acquisitions, mergers, etc. And due diligence, funding. So we were perhaps a little bit lacking in experience in that area, so it seemed like a really good fit. So Sean joined us, lots of his clients followed, lots of his clients are still with us today, but he has grown his portfolio quite significantly in the sort of 6-7 years that he's been with us so far. Sean helps with the running of the business. He's an associate director. And he's just sort of developed those skills and he's sort of expanded his experience in his time with us, and he's he's 360 through and through. If you cut him in half, it would say 360 chartered accountants. And take that, because he's a massive Take That fan, as we all discover every year at the Christmas party. Bit of a legend in that respect, isn't he?
He likes a 360 party.
Especially when Relight My Fire comes on.
So tell us about this photo, Paul.
I think it's a very proud moment for 360, moving into our own offices. I think we probably both feel that the move maybe came a year or two earlier than we'd expected, but I think that's down to the progression and the growth of the business. We'd outgrown our service offices. We needed a home of our own. We'd searched a few places, but this building seemed to just cry for us. It needed a bit of tender loving care.
A lot.
A lot of hard work's gone into the building, and we're still here today.
Yes, it's obviously a much higher profile location than the offices in Melton. They were sort of stuck at the back of a business park, quite difficult to find. With it being serviced offices, we couldn't really put our own stamp on them, could we? We didn't even have our own receptionist. And then this building came along, which was an opportunity that was too good to turn down, really. It was central location, everybody knows where Albion Street is. There's a lot of developments going on in and around the area. The building didn't need a lot of work doing to it, so it was affordable. It's got its own parking. Great to have listed, which brings its own challenges with it, but the work that we did alongside the architect, the builders, etc. The results are something that we're really proud of. I think the building reflects our brand in that we're a firm of chartered accountants with all the sort of traditions and support and regulations that go around that. But when you look inside, we're actually very modern, forward thinking, using technology, etc. And whereas our building looks very traditional, you open the door and you step inside and we've got all the technology. It's really nicely decorated in a really sort of modern, minimalist way. We've obviously ripped the insides out and completely transformed the building. And I think, as I said, it is a really good reflection of our brand.
I think we have traditional values that have been brought into the 21st century.
Yeah, very well put.
So do you want to explain the work involved in transforming the Albion Street office to what it is today?
Yeah, in terms of the outside, it was just really a case of, there's not a lot we were allowed to do to the outside, particularly at the front. So we just sort of spruced it up, gave it a lick of paint, fixed anything that needed fixing. A lot more significant work needed at the back of the building. So for example, there was a really horrible 1960s extension that we ripped down that left sort of half of a window above it. So we made the decision to restore that window to its former glory. A massive arch window that's sort of the feature of the building, really. And then inside, as I said earlier, really gutted it, ripped it to bits. It was a drug, alcohol dependency rehabilitation centre. It got a little bit tatty. There was all sorts of consultation rooms, security things everywhere. So it was quite a big job turning it into a sort of a health facility into modern 21st century offices. We're very proud of the job that the architects, the builders and ourselves did in that respect.
Well, we are now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean that's where we're sat right now. We created a sort of a mezzanine and a new entrance into the basement. The boardroom that we're currently sat in was a kitchen, so I think that just demonstrates the sort of the scope of the works that we did and how the building really was transformed.
So how long did the project take, and you must have been relieved to finally get in, Paul?
I think overall, the project took around 12 months. I think we finally purchased the property around the October. We then decided on the architects, the builders, and I think that process took a while in terms of the actual fit out, because of the fact that we were restricted on what we could do, what we couldn't do with the planners. And I think we actually did move in before the building was completed. I think the first week we were in casual clothing. There were still builders on site. There were painting.
No toilets.
No toilets.
So we were using the toilets at Debenhams.
We was using Debenhams and we was going to the local library.
Yeah.
But we wanted to be in. We needed to be in. And it was the lesser of two evils: paying rent or using the local facilities that are.
Toilets at Debenhams are very nice.
So this leads us on to the official opening of the building. So who did you ask to do the cutting of the ribbon?
Yeah, we thought long and hard about, well, A, should we get somebody to open the building, but B, if we do decide to do that, who should we ask? We thought it was a nice touch to get somebody to sort of cut the ribbons, and after much sort of debating and sort of reflection, we decided it would be a nice touch to get the previous owner of the building to do it. So that was a guy called Martin Needler, comes from quite a famous family in Hull. So we asked him and his wife if they would like to come along to our official launch party and cut the ribbon, and we were delighted when he said he would. He loved what we'd done with the building. Obviously we gave him a sort of a grand tour. He couldn't recognise the place, and he was delighted, and he was, he'd been using the building initially for his business, but then sort of as a landlord for many decades. And I think he was sort of reassured that he'd handed it over to custodians that were going to sort of look after the building and keep it in the way he had done previously when he used it. So yeah, very proud moment for everybody really when he cut the ribbon.
Subsequently, we've also renamed this boardroom that we're in after Martin as well.
Yeah, I don't actually know if he knows that. We're going to get him back for another tour and maybe show him the building next door. And
I think we invited him to our 10-year anniversary party.
Yeah.
Paul, what do you remember about the launch party?
It was a great day for the employees. We managed to invite a lot of clients, other guests. I think the thing I take out of it most is poor Sean with his arm shoulder deep into one of the toilets that had broken on the evening. But that just then typifies Sean's work ethic in making sure that the evening was a success. From 9 o'clock onwards, the evening becomes hazy for me, as probably the rest of the team. Luckily I had the next day off, so I had time to recover.
Yeah, we had a sort of huge marquee in the car park, didn't we? We had a hog roast, we had Atom beers doing the bar, and some of the beers were quite strong. Yeah, I think everyone had a great time. There was a lot of events going on in Hull that night. There was, I think Hull KR were playing a really important game, so a lot of people had to shoot off to that. And I know another firm of accountants were having their summer barbecue the same evening, but other than the Hull KR game, I think our event was sort of the best attended, and certainly the most fun. And even the cake was amazing, as you can perhaps see on there. So yeah, it was a great way to celebrate at the end of a really challenging few months, and to launch the opening of the new offices at 19 Albion Street.
So I think most people know we feature on the Hull Monopoly board. Do you want to tell us how that happened, Andy?
Yeah, I was contacted by a representative of Monopoly, and they said they were looking at launching a whole version of Monopoly in preparation for Hull's tenure as the City of Culture in 2017. So it must have been early 2016 that they contacted me. And I thought it sounded like a great idea. I thought it'd be great PR for us. But also I wanted the board to succeed. I wanted Hull to have its own edition of Monopoly. I thought it was really important, particularly with the City of Culture thing happening in the near future. So we sponsor the income tax square, and again there was a lot of debate about, do we want to be associated with one of the more negative squares on the board, income tax, etc. But in the end we just decided, well, most people would be happy with a £200 income tax bill, so we're probably doing our job pretty well if that's what happens. The offices are featured on the middle of the board, and we also have a community chest card, which is obtain grant funding, receive £200. They were looking for a firm that was high profile, had the right sort of offices and logo, etc., but also someone that would promote the board through social media, etc., and help them create an interest in the board. Yeah, and I think it was a really successful sort of project that we got involved with. We've had a couple of Monopoly nights in the office. So yeah, it was, it's a collector's item, isn't it? People will keep the boards forever. So it's just going to be a constant reminder of 360 and sort of where we started off.
So now we're fast forwarding to 2018. Do you want to tell us about what's happening here, Andy?
Yeah, so I knew the owner of the building next door to 19 Albion Street, and I knew he had sort of plans for retirement. And then he just sat me down one day, we had a coffee, and he said, I'm retiring now, I'm going to start working from home. Do you want to buy 18 Albion Street? And like 19 Albion Street, it was perhaps a little bit early in terms of our business plan, but sometimes these things come along and you just got to grasp the opportunity before it sort of disappears forever. So we decided to purchase the building, and then very similar to the exercise we went through with 19 Albion Street, it needed completely gutting, sort of starting again, stripping back and turning into offices fit for the 21st century. So the basement had previously been a hairdresser's, so it was full of wash basins, etc., a little bit damp. Ground floor had been used as a dentist, so very similar to 19 Albion Street. It was all very sort of medical and sterile. And then the top two floors plus the attic had been used for offices. So there was less work needed on the higher levels. We used the same builders as last time because they knew the buildings, they knew the sort of the issues that they would come up against. And then, although the move-in date changed a few times because of various issues with planning, etc., we started moving the team in February 2019, I think. And by sort of April 2019, the building was fully occupied. We had been using offices at Craven Park in East Hull, hadn't we, because we'd run out of room at 19 Albion Street. So it was a good opportunity to get all of those back under one roof. To be honest, they were back under one roof anyway because the floodlight had collapsed, hadn't it, and they'd shut all of the offices. You were one of the people that was affected by that, weren't you? So you would come back to 19 Albion Street and he was sharing a desk with 3 other people. It was ridiculous. It was a real relief to be able to get into 18 Albion Street and sort of have our destiny in our own hands again. And who knows, in the future, 17 or 20 Albion Street may come on the market, you never know. So we'll have another decision to make if that ever happens.
I think it's a testament to the business on how far we've come in the 10 years that we now occupy 2 huge buildings.
Three including Withensea.
3 including Withensea.
So tell us about this photo, Paul.
So this was taken not long after we moved into 18 Albion Street. Obviously you can see the size of the team now, the growth that we've gone through in the last 10 years. Not everyone in the shop there actually works on Albion Street. We have a few members of the team who work from our Withensea office to provide a presence out there for our clients. I think it's, once again, it shows just where we've come from in terms of 3 staff members from the first 2 weeks of us opening in February 10 to I think probably 30 staff members there 10 years later, and long may it continue.
Yeah, obviously we've grown in terms of the number of clients that we service, the number of products and services that we provide, and obviously the team that are needed to support those clients and services. We made a few mistakes on the way, but I think right now we've got a really strong team, a really good mix of youth and experience. I think you're in the experienced bracket, Paul. And we're pretty much future-proof. We've got some really talented people coming through to take over from the more experienced people as we sort of get closer to retirement, although that is a very long time off.
It's a long time for me, yeah.
And obviously all of the technology that we're using, etc., the software, the fact that we're constantly looking to improve the platforms that we're using and our clients are using mean that we really do believe we're future-proof. We've got lots of room for expansion in the 3 offices that we've got currently, and just basically ready to handle whatever the business environment, the economy, etc., throws at us in the course of the next 2, 3, 7 or 8 decades.
So Andy, what was the biggest challenge you feel of the last 10 years?
I suppose, like most businesses, there's been constant challenges with everything that's been going on in the economy, Brexit, the move towards digitalisation. But if I was to pinpoint one area in particular, I guess it's been making sure that our systems and processes keep up with the growth that we've gone through. That has been a real challenge, and it's a challenge that any growing business faces. You know, making sure that the customer service levels that you're able to provide when you're much smaller are maintained as you grow. And I'm sure that there are a couple of occasions where we've perhaps dropped the ball, but hopefully we've sort of picked the ball back up straight away. And so yeah, it's and there's still work to be done in terms of the systems and processes, but we'll get there. And yeah, I think that is the biggest challenge of the last 10 years is making sure that the back office systems keep apace with the growth of the business. The rest assured we'll get the systems to the levels that they need to be at to ensure that we continue to provide the clients with the service that we've been getting for the last 10 years.
And Paul, what was your highlight for the last 10 years?
Well, I was quite new to accountancy. I was kind of a late bloomer. I didn't actually join accountancy until late 20s. I'd had other careers before I moved into this sort of sector. I was given an opportunity to join a brand new business, which probably seemed scary at the time, but I'd met Andy a few times previously. We spoke about the vision of where we wanted to be, and I think we've delivered. We have had our ups and downs through the 10 years, but I think we've come out the other end stronger, and I think the business is in a good place, and it will only get better.